Okay, so what we are going to do today and tomorrow is that we're going to discuss topics related to transportation planning. So transportation planning on a very high level, it encompasses things related to, starts with the freight units and then gets on to the, certain planning strategies related to profiles and settings and those kind of stuff. And then it goes on to, manual planning activities. Like, for example, there's something called transportation cockpit. So where manually you do a lot of things at one place in terms of, how do you process, freight orders, and how do you connect freight units and maybe a vehicle and come up with a freight order, and you can do a lot of things there. So those are the things which transportation planning takes care of. And also there is automated way of doing this transportation planning activity. So there's manual activity, and there is a automated way of doing your transportation planning. And you have a lot of strategies which SAP provides in terms of various algorithms or various programs which you activate in your planning process, and then the system automates those activities. So exactly what you do in your what do you call manual activities, the same activities can be done by the algorithm, by the program, or by the optimizer, or by the VSR optimizer, vehicle schedule routing optimizer. Okay, so that's a brief about topics what we'll discuss today and tomorrow. And in a way, you might have heard about robotic process automation, right? RPA. These days, you might have heard about these are some buzzwords which are going on these days, RPA and all that kind of stuff. So what is RPA? RPA is nothing but, it's some sort of a program which automates your normal activities which you perform manually in various business processes. So instead of you doing it manually, taking a lot of labor hours, a lot of resources, what you do is you sort of simulate it with a program, and then that program handles exactly like the way how you do your activity, or rather a set of people does certain activities. So that's what your VSR optimization is all about. So that we will see things like that. Okay. So far we have gone through the master data and all that stuff, transportation requirements, then capacity we discussed about, org structure, and all these things we have done, and end-to-end cycle and all that. So today we'll touch upon the first topic, that is trying to understand what are the documents and what sort of decisions are typically taken in the transportation planning process. Then we'll go into the freight unit. We did discuss freight unit last time. We executed certain cycle transactions, but then we'll briefly touch upon it as it's important from the context what we are discussing. And then we'll understand the package building aspect, although it is something which is typically handled by warehouse management functionality. But then we'll see, like, what are the configuration aspects, and where package building comes in, and what about it, what does it do, those kind of stuff. And then we'll touch upon the transportation units. What are all the various transportation units? How do we understand these transportation units as against maybe freight unit, or as a freight order or so. And then we'll look into get into planning strategies. Let's look into the profiles and settings. Yeah. Okay, so first let's get into what are the sort of documents and decisions typically associated with transportation planning. So if you look at this diagram, which I picked it up from the book, it's a very nice diagram which clarifies many questions probably if we are unclear. So uh, what you see on the very top are the freight called as freight documents. So whenever you say freight documents, right? So freight documents refer to those four documents: freight order, road freight order, or rail freight order. So when it is road and rail, you call it as freight order. When it is ocean and air, you call it as freight booking. So that's just the terminology. And those are the ones which represent what you can see in the legend is a capacity document. So that is where um, you have the requirements all loaded up into that particular document. Why it is called capacity document? Why are you loading requirements into that capacity document? Is because you're going to give that document, or rather that assignment, to the carrier, and for him to execute that particular uh, transport assignment. So that's why they are termed as capacity documents in their respective um, mode of transportation. So that's one aspect. And then you see just below it, or rather we'll come to that later, right at the bottom, you see a freight unit, right? Freight unit is what you see. And that is depicted as a demand document. So there is capacity document, which we have just discussed. And then on the other end is a demand document. So that is where the demands have risen. And how does the demand rise? What are the sources of these demand getting raised? There are multiple sources. We have seen those sources. We have discussed those sources before. Just to refresh, the source which comes from S/4HANA, the embedded system, or even if it is ERP, ECC, would be your sales order or delivery document. So sales order or delivery document could generate the freight unit. Uh, that is one source. Either it is coming as a, what you call in embedded